All right, so this is the bowstring we made in the last video. I just put some wool puffs in it for now. It's been stretching out. It's just about at the perfect length and brace height that I wanted for this bow. And now I'm gonna do a video on how I like to put serving on the bow. So for things you're gonna need, I like using a bow square. And the reason for that is I will put the bow square on the bow. I'll find my 0 mark on the bow, on the string, and I'll mark that with a Sharpie on the string. And then I'll go up 2 inches from that 0 mark, and I will put another mark because that's where I will start the serving from. And then I'll measure from that mark down 8 inches. And that next mark will be where I finish the serving. So it's an 8-inch section of serving. So I don't know if you'll be able to see, but I have a little silver Sharpie mark there. This next mark is the center mark. And then down here is my 8-inch mark. So from my 2 fingers is where you will have your section of serving. So now, things you'll need: bow square, a knife, and your serving jig. So to start this, you're gonna pull out your serving jig. Oh, and another thing you'll need is whatever nock you were shooting. I have my arrows obviously right here on the bow, so I'll take one off, but you want a nock so you know that you're putting the serving on tight enough or loose enough, I guess. You obviously don't want your serving loose, but you want to make sure you're putting your serving on at the right tension so that you have a perfect nock fit. You don't want your nock fitting too tight, obviously, and you don't want your nock too loose where it's just falling off. So keeping your nock that you're going to be shooting around is definitely important so that you make sure you get a perfect fit on it. But to start off this, let's see if I can move this down a little bit. I am going to take out a section of my serving, and I'm going to lay it over the bowstring so that it's running parallel with it, and then my jig is down here. I'm going to take this jig and I'm going to pass it over the bowstring and over that tag end of serving material that I have running parallel with it. I'm going to do that once, twice, 3, 4, sometimes you're going to have a little, and 5, just an extra for good measure. And so now I'm holding the serving with my thumb, but I have the tag end running parallel with the bowstring, and then I just wrapped around it 5 times with the main part that's still connected to the jig. So now what I'm going to do is start pulling this tag end and putting some pressure on the part of the serving material that's on the jig until, I don't know how good you'll be able to see this, but now you have your, right here, you have your serving started. And then that first mark is right here, so I'm gonna have to just slide this down to my first mark. So now that I've done that, I'm gonna make sure it's all neat, and I'm gonna pull it tight from this tag end and from this other end so that I cinch that serving down. Then I'm gonna take my jig and I'm gonna suck up that thread so that the jig is now sitting up against the string like that. And if you look, you'll see we have our start of our serving, our tag end, and then the jig itself. So now I'll take my knife, I'll pull up on this tag end, and I'll carefully cut it as close to those first few reps as I can get it. Then I'm gonna make sure I have my serving jig tightened the way it needs to be. And from there you can literally just start pushing your serving jig around the string. I like to hold the string itself in my hand so that it's not twisting, and then just let your serving jig do the work for you. The weight of it will keep it in line and wrapped around. Keep wrapping it around the main part of your string. Now, once I get a couple inches down, or not even, like a half inch to an inch down, I'll pull out some thread and I'll check my knock fit to make sure it's gonna be where I need it to be. I can tell right now it probably needs to be tightened up a hair, so, but now I'm just gonna keep doing this all the way down until I can check my knock fit, and then I'll see how my knock is fitting. If it's fitting good, then I will keep going, and if it's not, then I'll go back and I'll adjust it. So I'll pause you for now. So now I'm down a few inches and I've checked my knock fit, and my arrow can move back and forth without turning the string and everything. And it snaps on, but also doesn't take too much effort to come off. So I'm pretty happy with that knock fit. And as you put a knock there, and once you tie in your knocking points and you have a specific knock spot, they will wear down a little bit, I found. So if it's a little tighter than I want it to, I found that it works itself in after a few dozen shots, so it's not too big of a deal if it's a little bit snug. But now I'm just going down the rest of the string until I hit my final 8-inch mark, and then once I get to that area, I will show you how you finish it and secure it and tie your knot in so that it doesn't come unraveled. So I'm just going to keep working my way down the string, and I will show you how we finish it off once I get to that point. All right, so we just got to my end serving mark. So now to finish this off, what you want to do, I will loosen up my jig a tiny bit. You're going to want to put your finger on top of your serving where you finished. You're going to pull a good bit of serving material out of your jig. Take your knife and cut that off. So now you can put your jig off to the side. You don't need that anymore. And while you're still putting pressure on the jig so you're not losing any of your wraps, you're going to take your tag end that you just cut, and you're going to go back over the top of your string the same way you were just serving it. So now you have a loop. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. You have a loop. Then that tag end, you're going to pass through that loop and over your string. I like to do it 5 or 6 times. So you're going to keep passing this over your string and through the loop 5 or 6 times. And then you're going to take that tag end, and I like to run it back parallel with the main string, back over my serving so it's out of the way. So now you have a loop and all those wraps that you just put over your string. So now you're gonna take that loop, and you have your tag end going parallel with your serving, and you're gonna pass the loop over your string, which is going over that tag end. until all these loops that you put in it are gone, which should be 5 or 6 times, depending on what you did. So now you have a loop, your tag end from that loop, and then all these little wraps around your string. And then you're gonna hold on to, keep pressure on this loop and take this tag end, and you're gonna pull this tag end, and this loop will start getting smaller and smaller. And then once it's just about gone, you wanna make sure all your wraps are still in line, and then you'll slowly pull it. And as you can see, I haven't cinched it up yet, but you have all these loose little loops and your tag ends coming out here. So as you pull that, it'll suck all these loops up to the main body of serving that you've already done. You just want to watch it, guide it, make sure they don't start overlapping. And then from there, you have your finished serving. So now you have your start, which is buried in. And then you have your bottom, or your end, which is now buried in. And you have this long tag end right here. So then you take your knife, and I like to leave around 1/2 inch of tag end. So now it's cut off like this. And then all you're gonna do is take a lighter and burn this tag end and let the flame bring this tag end all the way down to the base of it. And then you'll just mushroom it with your finger so that it butts right up to this area, and it'll make it so it can't pull out, which I will do in 1 second. I just gotta go grab a lighter. All right, so you're gonna take your lighter. I like to have the tag end pointing at me when I'm doing this, so then I can just hit it with the lighter. It'll start going in, blow it out, and then push it down and let it mushroom right on top of that, so then it can't even pull out. And then from there, now you have a perfectly served Flemish twist bowstring. So then what I like to do is now you need your nocking point. So I like to put my bow square back on the bow and line it up with the shelf. And then I like to look, and I know, based on already shooting this bow, where my nock height will be. So I will take a Sharpie, which I have to go grab that too. I thought I had one here. And I will just put a little mark where my top nocking point will be. And then from there, we're gonna tie on some adjustable nocking points with, this is BCY knock point. This is actually BCY Power Grip. It works good. I like the color of it. You can see it easy. But they also make a knock thread, which I found both materials work just fine. So I'm gonna go grab a Sharpie so I can put a mark in there, and I'll show you how we tie those on. All right, so now that I just put a mark, that little silver mark, I am going to take off like 3 loop worths of this material. I like to use extra so makes it easier to work with. Cut that off. And to tie these adjustable nocking points, you're gonna take your material, you're gonna lay it over your serving, and I like to do 3 loose wraps, or 2 actually loose wraps going down the serving. And so then you'll have the original one plus the 2 more, so you have 3 wraps around it. And then you're gonna take this tag end that you were just wrapping around, and pass it through the middle between the serving and the middle wrap that you made. So you're going to kind of loosen it up so you have a little loop right here, and then you will be passing it through that, pulling it up so it's a little bit snug, and then you're going to take your other tag end and finish this wrap around so that they're both pointing up now. And you're just going to do a simple overhand knot, and then this thread, which was your top one, it's now on your right side, but you're gonna pass that tag end through that same loop between the serving and the middle loop that you passed the first end through. So now you have one going down and one going up, and then you'll pull those two tag ends away from each other, and it will create these three wraps. And then what I like to do is use my fingers to push all those wraps nice and neatly tight together. And I'm just lining it up with that knock point mark that I made with the Sharpie. And then once I have it like this, that's when you're gonna wanna yank on these two tag ends. You wanna put a good amount of force into it. You don't wanna go too tight, so then they're not easy to adjust, but you wanna put enough in it so that they hold in place, but you're still able to twist them up and down the string in order to adjust your knocking point. As you pull, you'll see them separate a little bit. You just wanna smush them back up together. And then you'll have a perfect adjustable knock. So then you'll take your knife, and just like with the serving, I like to leave around like a ½ inch of extra. Cut off both ends. And then you'll do the same thing with the lighter. You'll melt down both ends, mushroom them up to that, and it'll be a nice clean knocking point. So mushroom that side and this side. And so now you have a clean, you have your mushroom on each side of it, and now you'll be able to twist this up the string or twist it opposite way to go down the string when you need to adjust your knocking points. And then you can cut your next thread and do the exact same process down from that, so you have a top knocking point and a bottom knocking point. And that is how I like to set up my serving, my knocking points, and we have the new string that we built. So we just did this whole thing from the string in the first video, my last video that I made, to the serving. All in all, it takes about half an hour or so, half an hour, 45 minutes to make everything. Obviously, you have your time in between of the string stretching, but it's a pretty easy process to do. It's a little time consuming, but not bad to do when you got some extra time. So I appreciate you watching. I'm going to make this second knocking point, and then I'm going to get outside and do some shooting. But thank you for watching.